Welcome to the Jeff and George Show, episode 2, and we're talking about Fast Lane 2015, the WWE's newest pay-per-view. We're going to talk a little bit about the Royal Rumble fallout and how it all leads to WrestleMania. Thank you very much for joining us. My name is Jeff Gorman, joined by George Phillips. George, what's going on with the hat you got today?
Here's what. Usually I'm wearing a nice shirt, a nice tie, sports coat, dressing for the part. I'm with you. I'm with the man. I got to look good. I got to at least look like I know what I'm doing. Ever since the Royal Rumble, I can't get out of my sweatshirt. I can't get out of my sweatpants. I go to the barber shop today to get my hair cut, all right, because I have a show on Friday night, TV stuff down in West Virginia, and I'm talking to my barber, and he says, hey, did you see the Royal Rumble? And I was telling him about it because he didn't get a chance to see it. I told him that Roman Reigns won, Bryan got eliminated early, and now Roman Reigns' even title shot at WrestleMania is in jeopardy. The guy's got his clippers and went right over my head. So I got to wear a hat now for 2 weeks.
Wow. Well, that leads into what we're saying. We're going to talk a little bit about the Royal Rumble and the controversy that came out of that. But before we do, George, I'd like to talk about the championship match between Brock Lesnar, John Cena, and Seth Rollins. They might not be able to top that all year. That was just an amazing match, one of the best matches of the year. What do you think?
Yeah, great match. Brock Lesnar, the rib injury. It was funny because, you've done wrestling at the highest level, and so you can see it from ringside when a guy's really hurt or a guy's really not hurt, and he throws up the X sign or whatever to get the real paramedics out, not the indie wrestlers playing paramedics for the night. And I remember I'm sitting there watching it. I believe possibly he broke a rib.
It looked like it.
When Seth Rollins jumped over the ropes and into the table and put Lesnar through that table. I mean, it was a great match. It definitely put Seth Rollins more over as far as his status with the WWE. Like him or not, I think he's got a future. And John Cena, he brought it like he does all the time. Great match.
That's right. Seth Rollins just really put on a star-making performance. That dive from the top rope through the table is going to be replayed, I think, for decades. So Seth Rollins proving to be a big money player. Now that brings us to the Royal Rumble itself. Really quite a head scratcher. You had Daniel Bryan come in at around number 10 or so. Didn't last that long. Gets thrown out by Bray Wyatt. And Wyatt, surprisingly, was in that CM Punk role where he was throwing guys out, grabbing the mic and talking. Really a big push there at the beginning for Bray Wyatt, which was a bit of a surprise.
It was, but, nobody's talking about this. The Royal Rumble's not over yet.
How so?
Curtis Axel never got eliminated.
That's right.
And where are they going with this? He comes out either number 6 or number 9. Can't remember. He gets, hit from the back. All of a sudden he disappears. And quite honestly, I thought they were going to, you were talking about in our last broadcast about the ring being cleared for number 30. And then Sting walking in and kind of claiming the thing. One of them ideas that's brilliant, but probably, WWE writers won't do it. I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, they're going to go just off the grid and have Curtis Axel win the Royal Rumble. Or come in, finish second or something like that. Royal Rumble ends.
They
need to address that.
Yeah, they did a little thing on Raw where Axel came out claiming to have still be in the Rumble, and then Dean Ambrose threw him out and said, okay, now you're eliminated. But they did something similar to that with Rusev, at the end where Kane and Big Show throwing everybody out, and then Roman Reigns triumphantly overcoming the odds to toss both of them, seemingly to win the thing, but everybody forgot that Rusev was still lying out there on the floor, and he didn't get eliminated. And after The Rock came in and did his thing, Rusev popped up for a last-minute surprise, but Reigns summarily threw him out too, and there's your winner. And then the boos started cascading down.
Unbelievable. The fans love Daniel Bryan. Whether the writers like him, whether, WWE, I don't want to say authority, but WWE management likes him per se as the face of WWE. Triple H did an interview with Stone Cold Steve Austin on his podcast, and one of the things they were talking about was how wrestling itself is so much different as far as a fan base is concerned with the social media and the internet and everything that's out there today. Triple H was saying, and he was out of character, obviously, when he was saying this. He was Paul Levesque when he was talking. And he said, Stone Cold, when we were doing it back in the day, we wrote a storyline, the fans bought it, they may have not liked it or whatever, but that was the end of it. He goes, today, that type of approach is gone. They're changing things backstage, at the very last minute all the time. And, what's funny is if Daniel Bryan wouldn't have been in the Royal Rumble, I don't think we'd be even having this conversation because Roman Reigns would have won. The people, it's the worst kept secret in wrestling that he was going to win the Royal Rumble, as of last year. And all of a sudden Daniel Bryan comes out, the fans go nuts, he gets eliminated, now they turn on him just like they turned on Batista last Royal Rumble.
That's right. The fans have definitely spoken, and if Daniel Bryan is available, they want Daniel Bryan to win. And everybody really bought into Daniel Bryan as the champion. They had this big triumphant yes, yes, yes moment at the end of WrestleMania 30. And then, of course, disaster struck with the injury, and he was out for a long time. And it's funny, we talk about the face of WWE and how they don't see Daniel Bryan by his look as being the man. And it's funny because that's really reminiscent of the storyline all the way back to Stone Cold Steve Austin. The whole reason why Austin and Vince McMahon had their big feud is because in the storyline, McMahon didn't think that Steve Austin was a good representative of the company, and now we see it happening in real life.
Nick, you almost want to look at now. I can't take my hat off. I have a buzz mark on my head here, but
Yes.
take the wrestling fan aspect out of it, and I'm trying to think of it from a business perspective. Is Daniel? Some wrestlers are better off without a title.
Yeah.
If you look at history, and from a business standpoint, is Daniel Bryan better off chasing the belt, getting screwed over, for lack of a better word, feuding with the Authority? People are still going to watch. The Yes Movement is still there, and it's almost like if he does go to WrestleMania or does win the title at some point, then what's left, per se? Now, I'm thinking possibly, you're hearing the rumors with Dolph Ziggler and Daniel Bryan at WrestleMania. And, I'm starting to think that Ziggler might play a role in this match to keep Roman Reigns a babyface by interfering in the match, screwing over Daniel Bryan. Roman Reigns gets the win. Basically Dolph Ziggler turns heel. Daniel Bryan, Dolph Ziggler at WrestleMania. Lesnar and Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. Seth Rollins cashes in. Game over.
There we go. That could definitely happen. And it's very interesting you talking about that, how there's kind of a disconnect between the whole idea of being the face of the company, the public face of the company, and being the champion. Because when you think about it, who's been the champion for the last several months? Brock Lesnar. He's not really the face of WWE. In fact, when you think about Lesnar, you are sort of counting down the minutes and hours and weeks until he might be possibly going back to UFC. So he's not even really representative of the company. I think that if WWE can kind of separate themselves from the champ having to be the face of the company, it doesn't. You can take someone like John Cena; he could still be the face of the company. Even Sheamus could be the face of the company without necessarily having to be the champion. I mean, you talk about Seth Rollins, the possibility of him cashing in the briefcase, being the champion. That doesn't necessarily mean that he's the face of the company. He's going to be going on the Tonight Show. I think there's room for the best wrestler to be the champion and somebody else to be the face of the company.
And that's probably good business. I mean, look at boxing even. Some of your best fight, boxing is so littered with fake titles now that there's 12 guys that can say they're heavyweight champion of the world because some other guy started a sanctioning body for $50 and his buddy who's a promoter paid him $100 for a belt. I mean, literally, that's how easy it is. But, some of the best fights, even in the last decade in the boxing world, have been non-title fights. People want to see certain people. So regardless if they're wearing a belt or not, I mean, it's almost titles aren't relevant as much anymore.
Yeah, so let's look at the Fast Lane pay-per-view coming up. It's strange because usually this time we've got the Elimination Chamber and there's 6 guys fighting for the title or 6 guys fighting for the title shot. So there's usually a lot of different WrestleMania possibilities being bandied around. But at this point, we know that Lesnar is going into WrestleMania as the champion because, of course, he's not going to defend it beforehand. And so you've got this match, which is pretty much going to be one of the two main events of the show, with Roman Reigns against Daniel Bryan. And it's really strange that they booked this match, George, considering how much that they are begging the fans to get behind Roman Reigns, and yet they're pitting him against Daniel Bryan when you can guarantee that the fans will be solidly behind Daniel Bryan.
Yeah, up until Royal Rumble, Roman Reigns was a babyface. Even in the Shield, people liked him, and they were heels, but people liked them as heels.
Yeah.
Shield breaks up, Roman Reigns, the crowd loves him. His mic skills need a little bit of work. Maybe he can write his own promos as opposed to someone else writing them for him. But, he's been a babyface the entire time up until the Royal Rumble, and now they're trying to keep him a babyface to face Brock Lesnar for your typical heel versus face type match, and he's going to be the bad guy in that match. I don't know if they just got us all messed up and there's some major curveball about to happen that we're not seeing coming, and they're doing this just to frustrate the fan base to keep us watching. Who knows? It just honestly doesn't make sense at this point.
Right. I mean, if you talk about the possibility of Daniel Bryan being put in a position to win a big match and then have the rug continually pulled out from under the fans, like what happened at Royal Rumble, that's really going to do nothing but engender more and more bad feelings. So the question is, have they learned their lesson? Are they going to put everything behind Daniel Bryan? Let's talk about the two possibilities. One you talked about, where Dolph Ziggler comes in and messes things up for Bryan, and they do go with Brock Lesnar defending against Roman Reigns, with the fans hopefully behind Reigns to some degree, and then you have your real crowd-pleasing match between Bryan and Dolph Ziggler. But the other way they could go is they could have Daniel Bryan win that match, make everybody happy, yes, 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 and then we go to WrestleMania 31, and you have this David versus Goliath storyline, which Daniel Bryan was pitching on TV, says it's the perfect storyline, me going up against Brock Lesnar. So do you think there's any chance, George, that WWE is going to give the fans what they want, let Bryan win that match, and go with Lesnar against Bryan on top at WrestleMania?
Yes, and here's why. 3 numbers. $9.99.
$9.99.
Some network subscriptions. And I think, personally, if Daniel Bryan doesn't go to WrestleMania, I don't know if this is true or not, but I heard right after the Royal Rumble there was a slew of network unsubscribes.
Yeah.
And now, 2 days later, they're saying they're hitting $1 million, or they hit their 1 million subscriber. Okay, whatever. But I think the fans should get what they want. That's the point of the, writing the storylines, is you appease your fan base to a degree. David versus Goliath, odds are Lesnar's not going anywhere. And it might be kind of the best of both worlds, because if the WWE writers and management want Daniel Bryan as the guy always chasing the title, then let him go to WrestleMania, let him beat Brock Lesnar, and then let Seth Rollins cash in. It's kind of a win-win on both sides.
That's right. Of course, we've already seen Daniel Bryan win a championship at SummerSlam and immediately get attacked and cashed in by Randy Orton. I think that was 2013. And that was actually the beginning of the whole Authority storyline. So I think the fans would really, they wouldn't like to see Bryan lose the title that fast, but there's definitely would be a lot of money in Bryan chasing Rollins all the way to SummerSlam. We'll see how that goes. Before we look at some other possibilities for that and WrestleMania, let's talk about the other big match at Fast Lane, and that's going to be Rusev, the undefeated U.S. champion, defending the title against John Cena. Now, the biggest strange thing here is Cena going after the U.S. title. How do you see this one going, George?
I don't see Cena holding the U.S. title. I just don't see it. Cena seems like a team player. That's probably why he's been around so long and so respected in the back. But I don't see him holding the U.S. title. I don't see Cena beating him. I see it not being a clean ending. And I see Rusev losing for the first time at WrestleMania. Depending on, regardless of who his opponent is. I see it ending weird, count out, something. Somebody gets involved. Perhaps whoever's going to come after Rusev, at WrestleMania, whoever that opponent's going to be. Cena's in the, I still call it the camel clutch, but he's in Rusev's camel clutch, like, throwback to the Iron Sheik, and Cena's about to tap, or he's about to get, go to sleep, and the referee's about to stop the match. Whoever is the next feud for Rusev comes out, breaks up the match, disqualification, on to WrestleMania.
Right, I can see that happening. I don't see them going with 2 Cena versus Rusev matches. I think if Cena's going to be the one to break Rusev's undefeated streak and win the U.S. title, I would see that happening at WrestleMania. The fact that they're giving this match away at Fast Lane, to me, indicates that Cena's not going to be the one to do it. I don't think they're going to have some kind of DQ finish and then go with Cena chasing Rusev for the U.S. title again. I think they're going to put Cena on against somebody else and let somebody at WrestleMania, I'm not sure who that's going to be, have that big win over Rusev for the U.S. title. I think it is going to happen at WrestleMania. Someone's going to get that big, hey, we beat the Russian and won the title, but I don't really know who that's going to be. I'd be tempted to say Dean Ambrose, but it looks like he's going to be going after Bad News Barrett. Now, they haven't announced that yet, but it looks like they're heading for that at Fastlane 2. How would you see that if that match happens, Ambrose and Barrett? Who do you think is going to win that one?
Either Ambrose gets him and they rematch at WrestleMania, or it's a unclean finish on that one. I think that's a good match for both of them, putting them over even more. They're both still relatively new, but it'd be a good match.
Yes, I could see them definitely trading wins. They got to give Bad News Barrett some victories over somebody other than Sin Cara to, build him up and build up the Intercontinental title. I could see him getting a win over Dean Ambrose and then possibly Ambrose getting him back and maybe winning the title at WrestleMania. Although you can't have the baby faces win all the titles at WrestleMania. That brings us to another possible match at Fastlane, another one they haven't announced yet, and that's the Usos defending the tag team belts, which it looks like they're heading toward, against the Brass Ring Club of Cesaro and Tyson Kidd. What do you think about that one?
Usos are going to win that match. I don't know if it'll be by pinfall, but they'll keep their title. Let me start over. They're going to keep their titles.
Yeah.
It's time for the Ascension to get involved.
Mm-hmm.
They're giving them the push. They're getting a bigger push. They fought the Outlaws. They made fun of Nash and, Scott Hall, the best bad guy ever, and Hogan. The whole JBL saying they insulted the Road Warriors. They're Masonic and Illuminati, undertone to their character. They're good. I like them. I enjoy watching them. And I see them as the next tag team champions.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I wouldn't be surprised if the Usos get the win over the Brass Ring Club, and then the Ascension and maybe a few other teams. I could see maybe possibly a 4-way going for even a tag team turmoil at WrestleMania with a lot of different teams going after the belt at WrestleMania. But yeah, I got to think the Ascension is going to win those belts at WrestleMania. I guess. And then I guess the one other match that has been announced for Fastlane before we start moving on to WrestleMania is Paige challenging Nikki Bella for the Divas title. What do you think about that one?
We get to watch Nikki Bella. What else there needs to be said?
Huh.
I think Paige takes it, I think, personally, because she's growing. She's growing into herself. She's growing into her character. She's only 21 years old, or 22 at the most. But her parents are big promoters in Europe. I mean, the girl's been in the ring since she was probably 16 years old. I see her possibly winning the title again, give her more of a push. She's going to be, if assuming she keeps her nose clean and continues to enjoy what she's doing and doesn't get hurt, I can see her being around for a while. So it wouldn't surprise me if Nikki Bella dropped the title.
That's right. We haven't seen AJ Lee around for a while. I know that Paige and AJ have fought each other several times, but it would be nice to see maybe Paige win the title, maybe have some good matches with some of the girls that she had matches with in NXT, people like Emma, and, it would be interesting to see if Charlotte comes up pretty soon. Charlotte's been dominant down there, and I think that Paige is really a good standard bearer for the Divas title. But now let's go ahead and talk about what's going to be teased at Fast Lane that's probably going to cash in at WrestleMania as we shift toward matches that we're looking at WrestleMania, and that is Triple H against Sting. They're going to have a confrontation at Fast Lane, almost definitely leading to a WrestleMania match. What do you think about the whole Triple H Sting showdown?
It's cool. I hope it looks good. Sting's 55 years old.
Yes.
He hasn't actively wrestled. I love him. I mean, the guy's great. I love watching him. His, Ultimate Warrior-esque type gimmick when he first came out, the surfer guy with the flat top. Then, as he's transitioned to where he is now. I think the match will be great for two reasons. One, it's Sting versus Triple H. Number two, they're both going to have good entrances. Sting always brings a good entrance in major pay-per-views. Triple H, he'll have the helmet on and probably a couple NXT divas. In fact, Charlotte was one of the divas that pulled off his robe at the last WrestleMania. It was the NXT girls that were in his little entourage when he made his entrance. He'll have a cool entrance. All us guys over 40 will look at him going, how's he pull this off at 44 years old? I just hope the match isn't a disappointment as far as, Sting being able to wrestle at that age. And we have such a good memory of Sting. Baseball fans that are watching, Willie Mays, one of the greatest outfielders ever played the game. One of the last images people have of Willie Mays is him tripping over his 2 feet in center field because he just couldn't do it no more. I don't want to see that happen to Sting.
That's right. That would be really sad. We're really hoping that, the Sting that we see in WWE, that we finally see wrestle in a WWE match, will be something that we can be proud of, considering everything that he's been through and all the great legacy that he has, to get a nice exclamation point on the career of Sting. Now, here's what I'm thinking. The big announcement of WrestleMania 32 next year in Dallas at the big Cowboy Stadium, Jerry World, AT&T Stadium, that's going to be amazing because it looks like they're going to shoot to break the record of WrestleMania 3, the Silver Dome. It looks like they're going to try to pack 100,000 fans in there. So the fact that they mentioned that, that everybody, all the great legends, if anybody has that one last match, and I'm mostly talking about Stone Cold Steve Austin, if anybody's going to come back for that one big match, I think it's got to be at WrestleMania 32 next year. Now, when Sting came into WWE, I thought, okay, Sting's going to come in, he's going to have his one match, and it's going to be against The Undertaker. But the fact that they're going with Sting and Triple H says to me that Sting will be around next year and we'll have Undertaker and Sting possibly in the last match, maybe for both guys. What do you think?
We got to get media credentials.
What's that?
We got to get media credentials to that WrestleMania.
Yes, we do. We got to be there for that one.
We'll cue to show up. We'll cue to show up with some graphics. We'll look like we know what we're doing. Get some media credentials. Sting, Undertaker at that. Oh, wow. I don't know if Undertaker's even going to be at this WrestleMania. I'm sure he will be there in some capacity. It would be kind of weird having a WrestleMania without The Undertaker in some form. But, yeah, Sting versus Undertaker in Dallas would be huge. Plus, Stone Cold, he's a Texas Rattlesnake. And they're having the WrestleMania is in Dallas. It would make sense for him to have a match. Question is, who's his match against?
That's a good question because when people have talked over the last couple of years about, what happens if Austin comes back, the name that was thrown out, even probably by Austin himself, would be CM Punk. But since Punk is now under contract to UFC, that's not going to happen. So he's an MMA fighter now. We'll see how that goes for him. But we're not going to be seeing Punk this year or next year at WrestleMania. So it could possibly be Austin, Triple H. It could possibly – you might think Austin and The Rock, but they've done that 3 times at WrestleMania, so maybe not. But before we speculate any more about the following year's WrestleMania, you talked about will Undertaker be there at this WrestleMania? And we have to talk about Bray Wyatt because Wyatt has just started to call out The Undertaker, sometimes very subtly. And you got to wonder, is that match going to happen? And would it be a letdown considering the streak is no longer in effect?
If Undertaker would have to win the match.
Oh, yeah.
Period. You can't. He loses again. It's done. It's over. The the nostalgia, he's still one of the greatest of all time. No one, if you'd have gave the Undertaker gimmick to another wrestler and not Mark Calloway, that gimmick probably would have died a quick death.
Yes.
He pulled that off, beautifully. Bray Wyatt Undertaker would be a great match at WrestleMania. It would put Bray Wyatt over even more. And, Undertaker's in his, I think, late 40s, early 50s. So he's friends with Mike Rotunda. Those guys wrestled together. That's Bray Wyatt and Bo Dallas's dad. Friends help friends. So it wouldn't shock me if that match happened. It would make for interesting. I'm a fan of entrances. I like them. The bigger the better for me. And it would be interesting to see all the cell phone lights going up for Bray Wyatt at WrestleMania, then Undertaker's type of entrance. He'll probably do some sort of tribute to Paul Bearer with the urn, and it would make a good match.
I definitely think that if Undertaker goes up against Bray Wyatt, and I think he's pretty much has to win that match, and that really wouldn't hurt Bray Wyatt at all. Just being in a WrestleMania match against The Undertaker is definitely going to elevate Bray Wyatt in a big way. And again, I think if you're going to build to that big, huge stadium show in WrestleMania 32, and you're going to go up against possibly Sting, maybe even wrapping up Undertaker's career there, I think Undertaker's got to win. But the question is, will Undertaker wrestle this year? I think the answer is probably yes, because I don't think they would have started teasing it with Wyatt calling out Undertaker if that weren't the case. Okay, so let's talk about how everything leads up to this year's WrestleMania. We talked about Lesnar against Roman Reigns. That's technically the main event right now. But, of course, it could be Lesnar against Daniel Bryan. We might also get Bryan against Ziggler. And it looks like we're definitely headed towards Sting and Triple H. So I guess the question is, there's a lot of names you can throw out there, but first of all, what do you think we do with John Cena?
Winner of the second Andre the Giant Battle Royal.
I don't know. I don't know if you put Cena in a Battle Royal. You know who you could? Somebody we haven't heard from for a while is Sheamus. Maybe Sheamus comes back and turns heel. We could have Cena versus Sheamus.
Sheamus. Yeah, I don't see I see John Cena kind of taking a backseat a little bit this year's WrestleMania. That's fine. He'll have a mid-card level type match and do a good job, put on a good show like he always does, and, be another John Cena. And Sheamus would be a good opponent for him. There's a lot of guys who would be a good opponent. Go off the grid a little bit. Maybe him and Adrian Neville.
Ooh, that'd be something. Get him out there. Or I wouldn't even mind seeing Neville against Sami Zayn. Just throw out an NXT showcase match. That would really, maybe even the first match, the opener. That'd be something.
Yeah, do something like that. Give, Cena's going to be around for a while, but, there's new guys coming up, and, give Neville his first WrestleMania. He's earned it. He's a good character. He's got that, I don't watch NXT as much as I would like to, but I'll tell you what, the ones I have watched, they're crazy. It's almost old school ECW, some of the matches. They're nuts. Yeah,
it's great. They got their next big show is going to be next Wednesday, the 11th, and that's going to be Sami Zayn against Kevin Owens, and those two are going to absolutely tear it up.
Yeah, I could see that happening, and even the possibility of, you need those filler matches in WrestleMania, as in any pay-per-view. There's still time to develop storylines, develop feuds. Cena in a tag match. He forms a tag team, possibly. Who knows? The one match I want to see, though, they've talked about it. Last year it didn't happen. The year before it didn't happen. The Dust Bowl.
Yes, the Dust Bowl.
I want to see Goldust versus Stardust at WrestleMania. The Rose Brothers at WrestleMania, and I think it's going to happen this year because Goldust called him Cody on Monday Night Raw. And Stardust looked at him and said, "Don't you ever call me Cody again," then hissed at him and walked away.
Right. I think that this could be the year where we finally get Goldust and Stardust. You know, they've been teasing it for a long time, but the timing is just right. They're just starting to have dissension, starting to break up. That would be a super match. And I don't know who I want more to be the special guest referee. I don't know if it should be Dusty Rhodes or if it should be Blue Dust.
Bring back Terry Runnels. Let her fight over those two. You know, the former wife and sister-in-law of Dustin Runnels. But what I love about it is, you know, I'm a fan of entrances. I think Goldust still has one of the best entrances in all of sports entertainment, and it's been watered down a little bit because Stardust is with him now. So we'll get to see the 24-karat productions, the wig, the whole 9 yards, because, you know, that could be his last WrestleMania, and I think it would be a fun match. And I think a lot of people would buy into it and be excited for it.
Right. There's not really a whole lot more for Goldust to do after he breaks up this tag team with Stardust, has his big match against his brother. We might not see him very much after that simply because, you know, he's something like 45, 46 years old. He's pretty much done everything. He might end up easing into a backstage role. But you talk about tag teams that are also breaking up at the right time. We could see The Miz and Damien Sandow. That would be another great match I'd like to see.
I love that. You know, he got fired. He's now his personal assistant. You know, so he can't do the gimmick. And I think this was a good move. I've always liked Damien Sandow. You know, he was the intellectual savior of the masses.
Oh, yes.
He viewed in WWE. And then, you know, for a few months he would come out in different characters depending on the city they were in. And people like that. You know, Damien Sandow's a good – I think he's got the size. He's got the look. He's got the ability. He's technically relatively good, you know, technically sound wrestler. And I think this whole – stunt double type gimmick has really put him over with the fans. And he goes to WrestleMania and beats The Miz. You know, I'm not saying Damien Sandow is going to be WWE World Heavyweight Champion, if ever, but he could get a nice IC title run, nice US title run out of this, or even a tag team title run.
That would definitely be something. And it looks like, you know, there's been a lot of, you know, obvious, you know, dissension among the fans, you know, with what the WWE is doing. But I got to say, they're doing very well bringing along these undercard feuds so that they're going to boil over right at WrestleMania. In the past, sometimes they've sort of thrown out some kind of random matches at WrestleMania because I've been watching some of the old WrestleManias, and they're really, you know, build everything up so right where it peaks at WrestleMania. But when you talk about the Dust Brothers and Miz and Mizdow possibly peaking at WrestleMania, those are going to be some really great hard feud undercard matches that really help to make a WrestleMania great. We're going to wrap it up pretty soon, but there's one thing that we need to another person we need to talk about, and that's Randy Orton. He's been gone for quite a long time, and I think that they're going to probably bring him back and have him sort of cap off the dissension that he had with Seth Rollins. Remember, they were both in the Authority. It looks like that could probably boil over, and you have Randy Orton coming back as a babyface. And I could possibly, what do you think about the possibility of an Orton-Rollins match?
I think that's going to be Rollins' place. And, you know, we're not writers. We should be.
Yes.
You know, we should start our own indie promotion. That's a conversation for February 21st when we're sitting Kate's side together. And
definitely.
Obviously, I love working with you, so I always look forward to Dan and shows. You know, I think that would be a good match. It'd be a good comeback match for Randy Orton, bring him back as a babyface. Seth Rollins obviously deserves a WrestleMania match. What I'm curious about is where they're going to put the match. Because if they put it early, in my opinion, that's a good chance Seth Rollins cashes in at the end of the WrestleMania. You know, he's there, wrestled, people forgot about him, per se. The rest of the show happens, all of a sudden he's back, cashes in. Who knows? Or there could be a match for his Money in the Bank.
Yes, that is a possibility. Although I got to say that if we see Randy Orton against Seth Rollins, I can almost guarantee that Orton's going to win that match because you know very shortly Rollins is going to cash in and become the champion, and then you've got Orton coming right in as possibly his first challenger. If they're going to build up to Rollins defending against Daniel Bryan, they've got to build up Rollins with some good title defenses, and I could see definitely Orton being one of those. But it's interesting the way that Randy Orton has kind of eased back into being a babyface. Usually he's so much better as a heel, but the way he kind of got over, not even on his own, with all these viral videos people made of him RKOing different people, being just inserted into different videos, and everybody just went crazy with these RKO out of nowhere videos, and that seems to have single-handedly turned Orton into a babyface, and he possibly could become a bigger babyface than ever, almost with that move being like the Stone Cold Stunner.
Absolutely. Another thing too is, regardless how you leave when you're hurt, people cheer for you regardless. You could be the biggest heel in the history of the company. You're out 6 months with an injury. Your music hits, people cheer.
Right.
Because they missed you. I remember watching Triple H's documentary, and when he tore his quadricep real bad, and he was out for 8, 9, 10 months, whatever, and he came back, and he was saying in his interview that when he was standing behind the curtain, he was almost scared to go out, because he didn't know how the fans would receive him, and have they forgotten about him per se? And he said the reaction was just overwhelming. So I think Randy Orton's going to get a very, very good reaction. What I want to see is Shane McMahon come back.
That would really be great.
Someone needs to, and I don't know if it's just wishful thinking on my part, but this authority storyline is working, obviously. Triple H and Stephanie, they're the authority, they're the bad guys, whatever. But it almost seems like you have these pockets of wrestlers, Eric Rowan, Dolph Ziggler, John Cena, kind of going against the authority. Zack Ryder even at one point, for 5 seconds on Raw. But they have no leader. They don't have a suit leader.
Yeah.
Could it be Mick Foley possibly coming to do that? Or they may not even do it. But Mick Foley, Shane McMahon would be great, because that's his sister and his brother-in-law that he's going against. Vince, I doubt. But it would be neat to see something like that. Almost a back and forth, Shane Vince when WCW and WWE were, one company, but they made it look like two people owned it.
Right. It could possibly be Sting, and that brings us, again, we'll probably wrap it up pretty soon here, but let's talk a little bit about that Sting Triple H match. I mean, you have Sting, who you almost have to think is going to win his first WWE match, but there's always that underlying tension between, even after 14 years, WWE, or actually back then WWF, versus WCW, and will they let the flagship franchise of WCW come right in and beat Triple H, or will they put Sting and WCW in their place by having him bow down to the king?
I say Sting loses, but it's going to be a good match, and Sting would be a good take the face paint off for 8-10 months. Corporate Sting, for lack of a better word. Just for an imagery for our viewers. And he's the vigilante. He's against the authority. He may be in costume or he may not be, but, then that could set up the Undertaker match as well. Just him being on TV and being relevant. If you watch the Monday Night Wars episodes, especially when WCW started to take its downward spiral and a lot of guys were jumping ship to WWE or vice versa, 2 or 3 episodes kept saying there were 2 guys that were always consistent. Undertaker, Sting, Undertaker, Sting, Undertaker, Sting. To where even watching that, you say to yourself as a fan, boy, that would be a cool match.
That's right. And one thing I would really like to see them tie this together. See, I don't think the Authority's going anywhere for a while. I mean, they had the whole thing in Survivor Series where they were knocked out of power. It seemed like that was a really big deal. And then just 1 month later, they kind of reversed course and brought them back. So I think the Authority's probably going to stick around for a while. What I would really like to see after WrestleMania is Sting sort of teach the WWE guys, the baby faces, give them the bat, get behind them and sort of rally them, teach them how to fight back against the Authority, the way he was able to rally WCW to fight back against the NWO. Because remember, the NWO would come out, they decimate everybody in WCW, spray paint him, beat him down, but then Sting was the one who taught him how to fight back, and then after a while, it was WCW that was routing the NWO. I would love to see that whole situation come full circle, where the baby faces of WWE, guys like Bryan, guys like Ziggler, guys like Eric Rowan, people like that, where they finally eventually turn the tide against the Authority thanks to the direction of Sting.
That's cool. You got to be a writer, dude. I'll juice up again and wrestle for you. You know, me and Dannon could be your inaugural match. It would be kind of funny. But that would be good. I think Sting, who knows what his contract looks like and how many appearances, he has in his contract. But that would be, if he's willing to do the road work, at least for Monday and Tuesday nights and then pay-per-views, I think that would be a very, very good storyline to kick off post WrestleMania, because a lot of times there's a buzzkill after WrestleMania. Although I love WrestleMania, my favorite pay-per-view is the Royal Rumble, or at least it was, but I love the Raw after WrestleMania. It's crazy
so
fan.
much fun.
Raw, it's nuts. I mean, that's a bucket list for me, is go to the Raw after WrestleMania one day.
Yeah, it's almost like if you go to WrestleMania, you almost have to get tickets for that Raw afterwards, because a bunch of crazy stuff is going to happen. One of my favorite memories of the Raw after WrestleMania was Dolph Ziggler winning the world title from
Oh, that was fantastic.
That was just an unforgettable moment.
Cleveland's own. Cleveland finally won a championship.
Yes, finally. Okay, so as we head through Fast Lane and head toward WrestleMania, it seems like there's a few things we have to watch out for. Number one is going to be, of course, who wins between Roman Reigns and Daniel Bryan at Fastlane. That's going to really indicate, are the WWE officials really listening to the fans, or are they going to just plow right through and go with Lesnar versus Reigns? Seems like number two is Brock Lesnar really leaving? Or is he going to actually stick around after WrestleMania? It was almost a foregone conclusion that Lesnar would be on his way out, but we've been hearing that he might actually stick around. And then after WrestleMania, you start looking ahead to that big Dallas WrestleMania 32. I keep talking about that because I think that they're going to really set up some amazing, mind-blowing, one-of-a-kind matches to fill that stadium and just top everything off. So let's get your final thoughts, George.
I think you just sparked something in my head. It's, I don't have much up here, but I have a little bit. Remember a few years ago, right after WrestleMania, they made the Cena Rock match.
Yes.
And that was the predetermined, basically main event for WrestleMania 11 months and 28 days before WrestleMania.
That's right.
If you're online with the Sting Undertaker thing, I wonder if something is going to happen during the Undertaker's match with Bray Wyatt, with Sting, or Undertaker doesn't have a match, Sting does with Triple H, Undertaker somehow gets involved to help Sting win, they stare down, 2 weeks later, that match is announced early for WrestleMania, what would be 32.
32. Or they may even announce it the very next night on Raw.
Yeah, that's your poster for the next 10 months until the Royal Rumble winner, and then you figure all that out. But, people are talking about Undertaker Sting for 11 months.
And that would be great because it doesn't involve the championship. Anybody else could be the champion, but you just know that whoever the champ is, you've got a big Undertaker-Sting match to go with everything else in WrestleMania 32.
Exactly.
And anything else you want to mention, George, before we wrap things up?
I said that'd be great. I'll take that any day of the week.
All right. So, how about our next show, George? Maybe after Fastlane?
You know what? Let's do one, if you want. Let's do one before. Play it out, see how Raw plays out a little bit, then absolutely do one after Fastlane. And we got to do a couple big ones before WrestleMania.
Okay, so let's get together one more time before Fastlane. It's going to be February 15th, so we still have a little bit of time to just go over things right before the big show, Fastlane, and then head a little further on to WrestleMania, okay?
Absolutely.
All right. Thanks very much, George. Great to have you here as always.
You got it, buddy.
Okay. Thank you for joining us on the Jeff and George Show. For George Phillips, this is Jeff Gorman saying we will see you next time.